This is Charter Local Edition. I'm Brad Pomerance. We are joined by Senator Bob Dutton. He is now the assessor recorder clerk for San Bernardino County. How's your new job? It's not that new, or is it?
Oh, it's great.
Yeah.
You know, I get an opportunity to continue my public service and still be actively engaged in legislation that's being considered up in Sacramento. And plus, my wife likes it particularly well because I'm home.
You are absolutely home. And your timing to become the assessor was pretty good, just as San Bernardino County was continuing its slide out of the recession. And so recently you released the 2015 property assessment roll. It's hard to deny the numbers are very positive.
Oh, very positive. We hit an all-time high. The previous high was in 2008. This last year, we were just under 180 or just over 186 billion dollars worth of property value here in San Bernardino County.
The highest it's been ever.
Correct.
Symbolically, sir, what does that mean for the county that you've now come back from the doldrums of the last 7-8 years?
Well, when you look at those kind of numbers, you have to be kind of careful what you want to read into them.
Fair enough.
And I went back to 2008, and then the big difference between what happened in 2008 and what's happened today was this last year we had about 30% of the increase that we saw was due to sale of existing housing stock. About 30% was due to Proposition 8, which we can talk about.
That, yes.
Which had a decline in value, but that's a recovery of those values. And then the regular Prop 13 CPI.
Sure.
Only about 10%, maybe 12% of it was due to new construction. You go back to 2008, and about 70% was due to new construction.
So what does that say to you?
Well, it's telling me that it looks like we've stabled with regards to current property values. I've been looking at foreclosure trends and things. We've been real stagnant now.
Okay, good.
So those are all good signs. What's a challenge right now, though, is the absence of new construction.
So 10% is too low in your mind?
Well, it doesn't show that you have a really robust recovery going on, because what's happening, you got the old principles of supply and demand, and demand's fairly high, but the supply is limited because we aren't having the new construction.
But could that be good as long as we don't get overheated to cause a little increase in sales price? I mean, you want some of that, no?
Yes, and that's what's happening, though, but the increase we're seeing in home sales, the price is due to a lack of supply and an increase in demand. So that's causing existing housing stock to be worth more because there's not as much of it.
And does that spook you? Because we know what happened. We got overheated.
What I don't want to see happen, I'm really concerned that we've got a lot of property out there that's ready to be built. And what I'm concerned about is if it hits the market too quickly, we could experience another bubble.
I see.
So I just want to see, what I'd like to see is more small business startups. I'd like to see some more improvement in the unemployment numbers.
Right.
But mostly I'm looking at small business startups, because when we see that starting to happen, we're going to see true economic recovery as far as I'm concerned anyway.
I have to do a shout out to the high desert.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, sir, Hesperia up 7.8%, Victorville 6.7%, Adelanto 6.5%. All I can say is hallelujah. I mean, those communities were just hammered before.
Right. And the other thing about that area, the thing to remember is that they had about a drop of like 60-70% in property value. So what we're seeing now is a slight recapture or recovery of those. Their prices are still low out there, extremely low.
Right.
And so.
But still, this is healthy.
But it's not, you aren't seeing a further decline. That's what I think is really positive about it.
Let's talk about Prop 8.
Okay.
So Prop 8 deals with the ability of someone, a homeowner, when they see the value of their home decrease, they can then go to the county and seek a reassessment.
Correct.
And that can be very helpful, especially during a recession. But there's a flip side to Prop 8, and that is what, sir?
Well,
I know, it's tough.
What the government gives, they sometimes take away.
Yes.
When Prop 13 was passed, there was a open area in there, and that is what happens when you have a declining market. And so Prop 8 then was put into effect, and that allowed us to reduce people's assessed valuation below the Prop 13 level.
Right.
However, it also provided for the recapture of that assessed valuation. So what we're seeing right now, like I said, the increase in values we saw was about a third of that was from the recapture of Prop 8s, where those lower values are now starting to increase. They still can never go higher than the Prop 13 base year.
But here's the scary thing for homeowners. When you look at Prop 13, the county can only increase, is it 2% a year?
Correct. No more than 2%.
Right. So under Prop 8, there's no 2% protection. So if your property gets reassessed, let's say down 25%, and then in 1 year it gains all its value back, I mean, that's rare, you could jump right back up to 25%.
Yeah, you could, except I've told all my staff that I don't want to go in that direction because I don't want to see values increase like that, even if it's somewhat justified, because I do have some discretion.
I understand.
And so we're monitoring that really careful. Now, the one thing everybody ought to realize, though, most of these Prop 8 valuations are done by computer program.
Oh.
And so, because there's like 200,000 of them out there, and I don't have enough staff to personally look at everything. So if they don't feel that the value is correct and they feel they got too much of an increase, they should contact our office and request a review. It doesn't cost them anything.
Oh, good.
They just have to request it,
so
and we'll do a manual review.
For example, then, if you live in Hesperia, if you had a Prop 8 decrease in value, is it likely that, for example, your increase would have been 7.8%?
Oh, no, that's the average.
That's the average.
Yeah,
so
some may be higher, some may be lower.
But so we're not talking about these double-digit increases. I mean, maybe for some.
Well, there could be, depending on the circumstances that are taking place. We've got a lot of new construction taking place along the 395 out by Adelanto. And then there's a huge development out by Spring Lake area. I think it's around 1,500 planned development. So there's some new construction activity that's actually in the works right now.
That causes prices around the community to start to creep up.
Could.
And affects Prop 8.
Yeah.
I want to talk about disaster relief.
Oh, yes.
As we know, in San Bernardino County, heading towards Victorville was the North Fire.
Correct.
I don't know if you know Ryan McEachran. He's a Victorville council member. He was on the freeway when the fire broke out, and he was a little far back, and he recounted to us on our show that he saw people running, and it was like the apocalypse. I mean, literally. And then the flames came, and we know a lot of people lost their homes. What do they do?
We were actually pretty fortunate there, but under that scenario, if you have a loss that's greater than, we didn't have too many homes that we saw anyway.
Were homes actually lost in the North Fire?
There was a couple of them.
But generally speaking, let's talk
I think there was 7 homes altogether that were lost. But anytime something like this happens, and just like 2003, and whether it's fire or flood, there's a provision in the law that allows us to provide disaster relief to homeowners when they suffer a loss that's above $10,000.
Oh, wow.
And then we can come in and we can lower their property assessments down until they can rebuild their homes.
Okay.
And so what we did actually, I went out there with my assistant assessor and the district supervisor from Hesperia. We actually went out there and toured some of the areas to try to identify where properties were, so that we could actually reach out to the property owners quicker.
Government working. I mean, it really is. And
that's
so
what we're here for.
Right. And so does one need to apply, though? I mean,
but we'll help them.
Right.
If anybody feels like they've suffered a loss or just have a question about it, they can contact our office. We have people that will talk to them. They aren't going to get some kind of computer program that's going to tell them here this. They'll actually talk to a person.
I can tell you like your new job. It's good to see. It's good to see. His name is Bob Dutton. He is the San Bernardino County Assessor Recorder Clerk. He was a member of the California State Senate, of course. My name is Brad Pomerance, and you are watching Charter Local Edition.